Welcome to the Play Like a Girl podcast, the podcast where we're all about sharing the real stories of amazing women in sport and business, empowering you to lead to your full potential. So today I'm very excited to introduce you to an absolutely outstanding athlete, leader, human. I am joined today by the one and only Lydia Williams. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. And these comfy chairs. Great.
What a lush setup we've got here today. Now, I mentioned to you earlier, I wanted to not be weird about it, but I've definitely been in the trenches on all things Lydia Williams this week. And one of the things that struck me most, I read your Dear Matildas letter, and I just felt like I was really transported into your world really quickly. You were really sort of open with your experiences, highs, lows, and everything in between. And I was struck by the connection and the depth of your relationship with your parents. And I would really love you to sort of take us back to little Lydia, your upbringing and the influence of those two amazing humans on your life.
Yeah, well, I guess the Dear Matildas letter came about with, the media team with the Matildas wanting to obviously hype up my retirement and make sure it was something special, and ended up doing a really long talk with what was going to be the ghostwriter to kind of put it all, my thoughts and experiences to paper and ultimately get the article out there. I remember we put aside, I think it was an hour and a half. We went over, it was like 2.5 hours when we both realized like, our team's Zoom meeting is saying we're just keep extending the time. I didn't have anything going on, but the Matildas media team was like, I know we probably need to wrap it up here.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, but we ended up just like going on, like he was really intrigued of like every aspect. Things that maybe I would have glossed over, just telling my story. He really wanted to get in the depths of each significant moment, which was really, I guess, healing and meditative to kind of go through and break it down. And I think that probably helped in the process of retiring to articulate it a little bit more and kind of reflect on everything, and then it also being printed.
Yeah, and what was that feeling like when you'd taken the time to actually stop and reflect and see all of the different things you've done and the experiences you've had? How did that feel for you?
I think it was really nostalgic. Obviously, I can kind of say it in a way, and to my family and friends and teammates, and everyone's kind of lived a bit of it. So maybe they're both like everyone's a little bit nonchalant and being like, oh yeah, But when I get to tell it to people that maybe have never heard it again or heard that part of my story, the reaction that they give me is a lot more maybe genuine and a bit more curious, and really helps me to navigate, maybe just how significant my career has been, and kind of brings me back, to the achievements, to not just kind of throw them away, but to be actually quite proud and vocal about what I have achieved.
Yeah, and it can be such an easy thing to do, to sort of just keep moving to the next, but to sit down and identify and recognize the things that you've done, that must have been quite eye-opening in a way, to go, wow, I've done so much. I mean, you've had a stellar career over a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think athletes have to kind of put one thing aside because there's always the next competition or tournament or training session. So really your, I guess, emotional like input and understanding of what you've just achieved or what, how you're feeling, it literally is like a split second and then you have to move on. So it's been, really cathartic over the last couple years to kind of really like take everything in, and I've left the game in a way that I'm really proud of.
Beautiful. Was there anything that really stood out to you that you hadn't sort of recognized was a really big moment, or something that you hadn't given as much credit to as it really deserved?
Probably the beginning of my career, and just, I guess, the struggles to just get that first opportunity. I tried to make the team for the very first time, my first team, to represent just the ACT, and I didn't get selected. And just the significance of, from the age of, I think I was 14, to just dust myself back up and try again. And that was, with both my parents still there to help me through that. So it was kind of a lot of learning and resilience building from such a young age that I probably haven't given myself enough credit for, that kind of building block to then help me later in my career.
Yeah, I think it's such a powerful thing to sit down and realize the influence that those people closest to us have on our lives, not only at the time, but ongoing in the way that we manage and deal with things. And especially with you're on the biggest stages. And at that stage, it was forging a career, but realizing, hey, they've been influencing me and teaching me the ways to get through things like this for a really long period of time. I'd love to hear about sort of the world that you came up through their influence.
Yeah, I guess, the long story short, my dad was First Nations and my mum is American. So just their journey separately was a lot of acceptance, reconciliation, learning how to be in, a biracial relationship, now raising a kid in, that kind of territory and, opportunity and challenge period. And we didn't grow up with, I guess a lot of resources either. My mum was the one that was making the money. My dad would do whatever he can with odd jobs here and there to kind of help. But mostly what we had was always given to us because both my parents were missionaries in the desert, and obviously showing appreciation with First Nations people was, gifts and things that meant something on a personal level versus like monetary or transactional. So yeah, my mum didn't call it the junk box, but it was basically a lot of stuff that we couldn't travel with when we moved to Canberra. But it was really significant in the fact that it was always gifts. It was always something, a token of appreciation. So I grew up in a house that was really loving and not sheltered, but definitely everything had an explanation. Why people may have shortchanged my dad or given us a second look or a dirty look or whatever it would be, or why my mum has a funny accent. Why couldn't she have another child? And everything was with an explanation. So I was always a curious kid, and it was a household that allowed open conversations. It allowed mistakes, and it allowed, not punishments, but it was always learning opportunities, never consequences. It was always, you've done something wrong where you're learning from this. Maybe you're grounded or you're going to get a smack or whatever it was. But now, like from that, that's why it's wrong. This is how you do better. Let's do this better. What about this? So it was always for me, a house where an environment where I could make mistakes and grow from it. And I think that obviously helped me in sport, that when it came to sport, it didn't matter as long as I tried and had fun. If I lost, you learnt something new. It's okay. Next week, we're going to give it another shot. So that was kind of like my childhood of like with my family together. And then obviously full rich of my mum loving education, schoolwork, the importance of knowledge. Again, my dad, the importance of knowledge in a cultural sense and storytelling, the respect of the land, the culture, the people, and both of them just a lot of love.
What a beautiful environment to grow up in. So I can see as you're sharing it now how you can reflect on how you've gone through your sport and your career and how that was really set up from an early age, especially when you mentioned, you might be getting shade thrown at you from kids or people making comments about your mum or your dad or yourself, and that your curiosity was met with education as opposed to that being left alone to you simmer on it or to be making your own assumptions about what they're meaning. Really, it was addressed quite quickly so that you had an understanding of why that was happening. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I think in, First Nations culture, it's, adults and people of age are always respected. It's always your auntie or your uncle, even, if they're not blood related, everyone has a air of respect and knowledge. So it's always about passing that knowledge down. And so that was really important to my dad, and ultimately my mum learnt that as she grew up or learnt and lived in First Nations culture as well, is that you have to pass down knowledge to the younger generation. You have to teach them respect, whatever lifestyle it is, whatever the traditions are, whatever the way of living, to make sure that, things are taken care of. People grow and learn and respect, the environment, or whatever relationships and all of that. That was always an important part. Like it didn't matter if my parents disciplined me or like an auntie or an uncle disciplined me, because everyone was on that same level of respect. I did something wrong, so I need to learn that was wrong.
And I imagine from a leadership perspective, how well that would have set you up if it's ingrained from an early age that you respect what it is that you're doing, whether that's your sport, whether the people around you, that you create an environment that it's okay to make mistakes, and then we address it, and then we move on. And that's a really good thing. Can you see how, when it comes to your sport, those lessons and those values have just completely carried through?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it's always, not discipline doesn't have to mean conflict, or it doesn't always have to mean now like there's dislike or dishonesty. I think sometimes that's what is thrown. If you get disciplined, if you get criticized, it automatically means that you retaliate. Where really, me growing up, it was learning. It was never done out of hate. It was always done out of love, because I want you to be better. And that's kind of the same way that I've actually been really lucky with my coaches that I've had in sport, is that it's always been out of love, or, they've thought of me as someone who was really talented or opportunistic. So we need to teach her what is right and wrong to her to get better. And I've always been really open to the fact of, you know what, I'm not a coach. I don't have the qualifications of administration yet. I don't have, was an athlete. So for me, anyone that was in a different, job title, they were always privy to respect, and, I had to listen to them.
You must have been a dream for the coaches. That sounds like there would be a desire to learn or a desire to receive information. I can imagine they would be coaching athletes that don't always have that mindset coming in.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few times when I was a bit of a brat, I'm not going to lie, when I was a little bit younger, and I definitely got my pegs brought down quite a few levels. But yeah, it definitely, one thing I remember from like early on in the national team setup in young Matildas, when I didn't make it. And mind you, I went to one camp and I was 16 and it was under 20s, and they were going to Thailand for the World Cup. And I remember the coach took me in, the goalkeeper coach, and said, "You're not coming because I can't justify you're here for one camp and you don't know everyone's name, basically. But he said, you will have the most potential to go for as far as you can. But the most important thing is you remain coachable and able to, maintain, that level of humbleness, and humility and openness to be able to be coachable and always kind of chameleon your way through whatever situation it will be."
Did you, before that time or before he presented that information to you, did you identify or recognize that you were coachable?
No, I just thought I loved all sports, I
Yeah.
think. I was playing, AFL. I did athletics. I played t-ball, basketball. Was running around. I used to play classic catches with a tennis ball, like in my friend's pool in Kalgoorlie. Like, I just loved all sports, like bike riding. I made jumps out the back, skateboarding.
Yep.
So everything was, I just wanted to get my hands on being active. And I think probably that helped a lot, is having that exposure to a lot of activities in sport. That kind of helped me understand different skills and things that coaches might want down the way.
Yeah, that sounds like a really pivotal kind of conversation for you to be identified, or for you to go, oh, okay, I am coachable. I need to keep a really open mindset. I need to keep taking information in, because that's going to make me better.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the other moments was when I was going into, representing Australia for the first time. I had my first coach and I went to a goalkeeper camp, and there was probably maybe 20 to 26, male and female goalkeepers. And this coach that was running the clinic used to be the Socceroos' old coach. So he was just running it, whatever. And I remember my mum, she tells the story, I had no idea. But after it, he came up to her out of everyone and said, whatever you do, don't let her quit. And said, out of everyone here, she has the most potential to make it. And so that's what my mum had in the back of her mind of like, oh my gosh, like she's actually good. So she kind of had probably that, positivity and, the confirmation of like, oh, this is something we got to nurture in Lydia. But for me, like there was so many times I'd come home from training and cry and want to quit. And she's like, no, give it. Like, we won't go to training one day, but we're going to go back. You're going to have a night off, and then we're going to go back. But she never let me quit, even though I wanted to many times because it was too hard for me in my head. But it built my resilience, and it was, gentle parenting of like, okay, we'll step back for like, let your emotions cool down, let your whatever simmer, and then we're going to go back because this is something you actually really like and you're good at it.
Aren't there just so many kind of pivotal moments along the way that you might not, it's really easy to brush over moments like that, but really they become so important in the bigger picture. You kind of need to allow the emotions to come up, but we've got to corral you and keep you on track here because there's real potential. And for your mum to have that moment, again, such a pivotal part of your story.
Yeah, I think for me it was, obviously going through what I have been just in, with my parents of, going through different, racial crisis and identity, trying to figure out where I actually belonged and what I wanted to be called or who I was. And then to take that into sport, I didn't realize how much like resilience was being built along the way, but also very clear that like it was okay with all the emotions and experiences I had before the age of 16, that it was okay to be emotional and it was okay to show those big things, but as long as I could then rationale and bring it back to a level where I could like think again.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the one thing that I learned is like it's even now okay to have those big emotions as long as you allow yourself to like decompress and come back to like the rational thinking and, making clear decisions again.
Yeah, I love this conversation. We talk about this a little bit at Play Like a Girl, where if we look at some of the best athletes, it's emotions are okay, but it's their ability to bounce back really quickly and get on with things that makes them elite. That sounds exactly like what you're talking about here.
Yeah, like it's, it is a passion. Like it's all things that you really love doing is a passion. So you do get, quite invested when it goes right, when it goes wrong. But then again, you have to like let yourself feel that moment, but then quickly just be like, okay, this is the next day. Like I actually have other things to do in this project, in this training, in this game, in this career that I need to like make sure that, if I don't, it could affect a flow-on effect.
Completely. And the people around you, like especially in a team sport. And the contrast of that is the athlete or the leader who can't let things go and dwells on it and then brings that energy or that behavior and completely impacts the culture and performance around them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just, I've always been like, everything has always been for a reason. It's, again, a learning experience and a learning opportunity that's going to make me a better person. So I've never wanted to dwell on, the negatives nor the positives, because you get caught up in this cycle of thinking back on the past where, life is beautiful, like to not spend it in the moment. And I think that's probably what, being First Nations has been a big part of, my heritage and growing up and culture, is that you have to live day by day. In order to survive, First Nations people had to live day by day on what they could do, not necessarily like a hunt that they maybe, missed or whatever. So for me, it's always been about living in the moment and enjoying that, because yesterday happened already. Just can't change it.
There are so many beautiful lessons coming through from learn from your culture from an early age. What I would really love to just go back to, you mentioned the goalkeeper camp and you training with men and women, and then you're the standout goalkeeper there. Love that because I'm just like, that's how you play like a girl.
Yeah.
Did you feel intimidated in that environment, or did you just go out and do your thing?
No, I call myself naive when I was younger. Like I just kept I think because my parents never put any expectations on me. It was always like, do you like it? Like, let's go do this. So I think it was always like, oh, this is fun. Like I didn't know that the man was at Socceroos. I didn't understand everything. I didn't know who the Matildas were at my first camp. So I was like always doing things because it was fun or because it was encouraged versus like I was reading too much into it or my parents put pressure on me, or anyone put pressure on me. It was always just like, you're talented. And I'm like, cool. And I mean, I don't love compliments. They're great. But I think, the humility of First Nations people, it's, you don't really want to be too much in the spotlight. Don't really want to brag about yourself at all. So when people would say stuff, I'd kind of be like, yeah, no, like,
Yeah.
I'm shy. Don't talk to me. It's an adult talking to me.
You don't strike me as the type that's getting too carried away in the hype. There's quite a neutral energy and not too far one way, not too far the other. And I think it's a really present energy, like you mentioned. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it's I don't know where it came from.
You're like,
but
Holly,
yeah.
too many compliments. Stop it immediately.
Stop it.
Don't look at me. I love it. And I really resonate with what you said, especially about not being pressured to do or be anything at an early age. I think that's such a great thing for girls in sport, to just be able to enjoy their sport and be encouraged to do it no matter what. Like you, I never thought for a second that sport wasn't for me as a young person. It was just, I grew up with my dad and my brother, so you get out and you compete and throwing a ball around all of the time and classic catches. That is normal life.
Yeah.
You don't think, I didn't know about any of the sort of challenges of sport outside of that until much later, until you start to feel it or recognize or learn, I guess, the business of sport or the administration side, which, there's lots to that. But I think not knowing all of that stuff when you're playing is just such a great thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And where did classic catches come from?
I don't
That's what I
know.
want someone to find out, because
That's an
I
iconic
feel
thing.
like, every child was like, let's play classic catches.
I would just be that little kid in the backyard like, Dad, come on, play catch with me, come on. And I would just be peppering tennis balls
Yeah.
in for him to try and catch. And I would have been such an annoying little kid. So let's take it to World Cups, Olympics. Like, you have been at the absolute pinnacle of your sport for such a period of time. Through your rediscovery of your story and looking back at that again, have there been more moments in that you've identified as really pinnacle moments in your story?
Yeah, I guess each World Cup was probably, there was like one moment in that was like, it stuck out for me or was something that I will remember in that. My first one, obviously it's my first one. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I didn't really know the history of the Matildas at World Cup. So when we drew with Canada to get into the knockout round, when we beat Ghana, it was our first win. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize like this was really pivotal. And then going to the knockout rounds was the first time we went through a knockout round. So I was like, oh yeah, cool, like whatever. And then we ended up losing, I think to Brazil, maybe, I can't remember. And then people were at the hotel, teammates were crying. And I was like, why are they crying? Like, this was cool. Like, why are you crying? And for me, I didn't pick up the fact that like this was their last World Cup. Like, they're probably retiring after this. This is the last time that they can represent their country. And, now obviously realizing that now, but I just went in again, like naive, like going, oh, this is cool. Like, we're in China.
How cool is this?
Yeah, I'm with like my friends, like get to travel. So, it was a real kind of eye-opening experience of like, this is what it is to be at the world stage, the top performance. And then, fast forward to Germany in 2011, I got my first World Cup game under my belt, and I think anyone that watches highlights from that remembers the handball that was made by Equatorial Guinea. But for me, it was a performance where I remember this one pass coming back to me, and I've obviously been just talented. I never really learned technique in terms of like how to be a footballer. I was technique in a goalkeeper, but not using feet or whatever. And I remember this ball coming back, and someone was shutting me down, and I remember getting it on my left foot and being able to clip it and like shape it around the attacker to get to the defender. And I was like, how did I do that in my head? And that was like the one thing that I was like, okay, like I'm actually confident. Like I'm here on the world, and I did something that I didn't think I could do. And obviously it's a very simple, you know.
But moments like that breed confidence, don't they? Wow,
Yeah.
I can do that. Amazing. What's next?
Yeah. So then after that World Cup, then it was leading into the 2012 Olympic qualifiers, and that was the first time that it was my opportunity to take then the number one spot. So then I was like, why me? Like I've been in the team since 2005. It's now 2012. It's been 7 years of me getting minuscule opportunities, training, doing well, learning, developing, and now I'm gonna be playing. We didn't qualify for 2012. We didn't qualify for 2008, which I grew up watching Kathy Freeman, and that was my moment of like, I want to be an athlete, and I want to represent Australia and my culture. And so, you know, for me, it was like, oh, like what I saw as my pinnacle was an Olympics. And then, you know, again, fast forward to, 2015, we're at the World Cup in Canada, and 10 months before that World Cup, I actually ruptured my ACL for the second time. And I had 10 and a half months before the opening game to make it back in time. And I was playing in America. I remember going up for a ball, and I twisted my body in the air. So when I came down, I just wasn't in the right shape. And I just felt it shift. And I was like, this is not great.
Same knee?
Same knee. And then I spoke to the doctor. He was like, let's go inside. He's like, let's just reassess inside. And so we went inside, and I was like, I've done it, haven't I? He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Come out when you want to. Like, I didn't want to do it out on the pitch. Like, when you come out, when you feel fine, like, let's. And then so I remember walking out on the pitch. I had my mobile phone on me, and I called my team doctor, the coach, and our manager in Australia for the Matildas. And I just said, I've done my knee. How quickly can I come home for surgery and do a program?
Just straight into how do we solve this? Yeah.
And literally they were like, book a flight, whenever you can with the club. You're flying to Adelaide, we'll get you straight into surgery, and we'll do like the program like behind the scenes. So like within the time frame of me, getting everything packed, taking blood thinning injections, getting ready to fly back, I flew into Adelaide, got my surgery, was there for 2 weeks with our physio that was looking after me. And when I was out, I had a whole 9-month schedule to get me back for then like tick off at 9 months. And then within that month and a half before the first game, my coach wanted me to play 10 games in order for him to feel confident that I could play at a World Cup.
That's a lot to squeeze in that period of time.
Yeah.
Did you have a moment where, like, mentally, emotionally, that you stopped, or was it the certainty in the plan that you were just straight in on the way back?
I think so. It was my second one, and my first one, I had the opportunity to stop and be like, "What the hell? Why did this happen to me?" I went back to Sweden for my first one because I just wanted to be around a team, and for me to get through that emotional hurdle, I needed to be around the team. Like I wasn't ready to motivate myself. The second one, obviously, because now I was, starting as a number one, I was playing overseas. I felt this air of confidence within me. I was like, F that, I'm freaking getting back for this.
That is amazing.
I didn't have a time to think about anything. Everyone had a plan from start to finish, from like my physio, then my state physio, then it was the AIS, and then it was a strength and conditioning, then it was a goalkeeper coach, then it was coming into camp, then it was nutrition, then it was all my recovery. Everything was, I didn't even have time to doubt or do anything else.
It sounds perfect.
It was crazy.
Mentally, that's where the pain, I suppose, is like the physical pain you deal with, but the mental side of it can be the most challenging. It sounds like with a schedule like that, there's not a lot of time to sit and dwell.
Yeah. And it was like, you have to hit strength, markers every however many months. But for me, because we were aiming for so much, it would be every 2 months. Let's do this, let's do that. And anytime I doubted, then either it was my physio or trainer was like, no, do it. And I just I didn't even have any space to say no. So I think that got me back into 2015 to being a World Cup that I was really proud of, because I made it back.
That is incredible.
And at that stage was actually the best finish that we came in, which was 7th. So we made it through a knockout round, and then we were the first team ever to make it through the knockout round. And then we lost to Japan, which ended up being the world champs. But yeah, that was a World Cup that really gave me the confidence, like, no matter what my brain and, inside says, I can push through it. And I think that's kind of really helped me in decisions that I've made now in my career and now in retirement.
Are these things that you've come to discover on your own, and or have you worked with sports psychs along the way? Like, how do you find these tools or identify them?
I have worked with sports psychs, but for me, I just feel like there's almost like so many layers of things that have happened along my journey, which unless you have been along there or do like a really long speech and we break everything down, it's not really something that, can be, I guess, uncovered. And really it's been self-discovery of like, how did I get through that? Oh, I just did it. Oh, I know I can get through, the next thing, or, whatever else it might be. So yeah, for me, it was always something I think I've innately kind of figured out myself.
Yeah. Are you a journaler? Like, how do you reflect on this stuff, or how do you identify these moments and take the information and use it?
I think it's just a feeling I get. Like it's
quite a skill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like journaling. I have in the past, more in like, therapy and, any kind of workshop to kind of just.
There's like a lot of eye rolling going on here for those who are listening.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
audio.
it's been beneficial and it has helped me, but it's been in moments of like, when I have felt like trauma, when I have felt depressed. So it has been in moments when I haven't felt confident within myself, or I actually really needed help. And I think my mum always says, especially now, she's like, Lydia's so deep that when she actually does come to you with a problem, it means that it's like really affected her. So that's kind of how it's always been when I've actually had to reach out for help. It's been something when I've felt like I can't get out of this alone. Like I actually do need someone to come and intervene and just help me like get through. But in that, I've always been a solution-based person. So it's like, don't come to me to talk to me. Come to me to offer me solutions and offer me like what's next. Like I hate talking without a solution.
We are here for action.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like the ACL return is exactly that in action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, athletes are like that. Like, don't like
what are we doing about it?
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, tell me what I need to do.
I will get out there and do it.
It was a bad game. Like, how do I fix it? We did well. What we can do better? Like, it's always been for me like, what's the next action to make myself better?
Yeah, love it. I want to come back just briefly to the letter to Matildas, because I want to talk about your love for those girls and for those players and those people that have been in such a huge, significant part of your life. We talked about it briefly earlier, but the relationships that you've forged through that period of time, they're lifetime relationships, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they're just incredible human beings. Like I never thought I'd travel the world, let alone like leave, WA and Kalgoorlie. So having the opportunity through sport has been amazing. And I think it was really significant when my dad got sick, and when he passed away, he had his memorial service in Canberra in the Great Hall. And, there's a room, he's only the second person at that time to have it there. And the room was packed. And it was people that, I had no idea who they were. And in that moment, I realized the significance of like how you make people feel and what they remember of you. And it was something now that I really appreciate of how you actually go about your life and the things that you do that are significant. Like no one remembers a decision you've made or what maybe what a conversation you had with them or why you had an argument, but they remember how you made them feel and remember what you've kind of left them with. So there was my friends, and then it was like a group of girls, and they were, I hadn't played for the Australia yet, but they were my teammates from the Canberra, I think they were Canberra Eclipse team, which was way back when it was institutes and stuff. And those girls played for the national team, and they came there to support me. They maybe seen my dad, met him a couple times, like going out to training or whatever, but they didn't know me. I was a child. I was, 15 years old, and they were adults, like they were in their 20s, and they're coming to support literally a school-age kid going through something really difficult. And I think that's when I realized that, the people that you meet in sport, especially in female and women's sport, it's like a family. It's like, in order for you to be the best athlete you can be, you need to be the best human you can be. And we're here to support you through this moment because you're still our teammate. Like, we need you to be at your best. Like, we're going to support you through something that's really difficult, especially like as a young kid. And I think that's when I really was like, I felt comfort from my teams that I was playing in or would be playing in. And it was similar when I actually then joined the Matildas and going through, moments of grief, because it took me a long time to really kind of process my dad passing away. But the team just kind of always helped me through that. Like, I was still young. Like, I think I was still the youngest for such a long time until Polks came around. I think she was like by 8 months younger than me. But yeah, like then it was just us two, like we were the youngest then. So it was always a place where we could belong, and people were going through similar things in the sporting environment, but also like other things started popping up, like, someone else got sick, or, they were doing uni exams, and I was like, oh, like these are other things that I relate to, but like I need to help you to be the best athlete you can be. And just over time, it's just been, we've all, as more players have come in, as more people have gotten established or left, you always go through different life experiences with the girls. And obviously the current Matilda setup, all of us, most of us actually have grown up together from like 16 years old. So we've known each other for nearly or over 10 years. And when you basically live together, you go overseas together, you then play in clubs together, like you have to be so open and vulnerable that like you can't help but create really lifelong and solid, relationships and friendships and memories that you're going to cherish forever.
Getting to travel with your friends is one of the greatest joys. I was reading talking about who's picking the playlist and where you're finding coffee and all these kinds of things.
Yep.
Who's taking the playlist and what's your choice if it's you?
I'm definitely like in my later years when I have become veteran years,
Yeah.
as I become a coffee connoisseur, I would search out the coffee. But in the kind of, I guess, earlier years, that's when I was like big playlist person. Like I was fully LimeWire, download, MP4. I had like, the old iPod with
What a cool cat.
yeah, I had everything. Like it was started with like a little Walkman, then it was a Discman, then it was like the
That
old
is
school.
vintage stuff right
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
like I loved it. Like I was just so, when the radio came on and you're doing like the play and record button, pressing it at the same time. Ah, I missed it. No. Yeah, same with like when Rage was on. I was like, got to record the #1 song this week.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I at the beginning was all about the playlist, but then obviously as time goes on, it's a big responsibility.
There's a lot of pressure when
Yeah.
you're the one and a lot of judgment that can come from it,
Yeah. So I'd be like, what song is this? But then like, now I think it's quite accepted in the team of like, I don't care. Someone put music on, just anyone. And then when it's like, what's this? And I'll be like, oh, well, what do you want to put on? So then it does turn into the banter part, which is the fun part.
The great joy of sport.
Yeah.
In your sort of pre-game or warm-ups, do you like tunes on? Like, what's your setup?
Pre-game, yeah, I don't mind. Whatever
Which is
everyone's
pretty
jamming
crazy.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I mean, as long as the vibes are good, like, I'm good. But when it comes to the actual pre-act, which is probably about 10 minutes before going out, then it's like full goalkeeper mode.
Talk to me about it.
Just like getting gloves ready, making sure that like what I'm wearing is like, whatever the temp is. I got into...
Can you explain that? So take us through, like, we're looking at you
Yeah.
or you're going through your processes. Can you walk us through that?
Well, I guess like you obviously go into the change room, you unload, go out on the pitch, have a look, see the temperature, have a feel of the grass. Is it, soft ground, hard ground? How long's the grass? All that kind of stuff. Come back inside, get your boots out, get your shinnies out, gloves out. Then you kind of just like start putting on like either your pre-match jersey, whatever shorts you want to wear. Now you could have, long sleeve. There's like thermals, pants, socks, whatever you're going to do there. Normally it's always like new socks. So you're cutting your socks to make sure that they fit over, whatever grippy socks you're going to be wearing. So once that's all on, I have started to then, in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, I always wanted to warm up in longer pants and not my game shorts, because the shorts that you will warm up in is your game shorts and your game socks. It's just your shirt that's going to change. So I've always wanted to get out of my, game shorts, because normally the field is dewy because I water it. So then you dive, you're going to be soaked, and like I get cold easy. So I'm like, whatever I can like take off to then put on like warm clothes or at least dry clothes is what I want to do. So then once that's all on, boots are on, go down, start doing pre-active, glute and knee prevention, injury prevention pre-act. Then it's, here's the gloves, make sure they're ready, they're dry, but they got either my sticky spray on them, which is approved, by the way.
Got the all clear on that.
Got the all
Let's just
clear
be
on that. And then just like making sure they fit well. Like I had my wrist tape, fingers taped, so making sure that like all the tape as I put them on are feeling good. And then it will be, time to the goalkeepers to go out 5 minutes before everyone else. So then we'll go out, run out, do our warm up, and then start. And then obviously you take a towel because it is dewy, wipe the gloves and everything. And then whoever's starting gets to work with the goalkeeper coach. Everyone else, works with each other. And then you kind of take turns when it comes to shooting and stuff like that.
Are there any superstitions in there?
In the morning, and one part of my pre-match meal, whether it's breakfast or pre-match, I have to have peanut butter and jam.
On the same piece of bread?
No, like multiple pieces. Either like
I'm curious. I'm like, is this a peanut butter and jelly type thing? Is this a Diana influence?
Well, yeah. So like when I would be like breakfast in the morning, which like lovingly prepared by my parents, like my dad would always make me like a Vegemite on toast. Like I had like 2 to 3 slices of bread. So there would either be, on a really nice day, it would be a toasty cheese toasted cheese slice of toast.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
when they had time.
that's
Otherwise,
loved. Yeah.
otherwise it's Vegemite and then like a peanut butter and jam, which was mum.
Yeah.
So very much influenced by both cultures. So just because when we travel, especially when we went to um, Asian countries early on in our career, like it was really hard to then be like, now there's a chef, so you can get different things or whatever your dietary needs are, there'll be something. But normally when you go overseas, like the one thing that you can always guarantee is there's gonna be peanut butter, there's gonna be jam, there's gonna be butter. So then I was like, okay, what's one thing that I can have that's always gonna encompass that kind of ritual of having, pre-match wherever I go, and it was peanut butter and jam. So then I wanted it on certain bread, and then when I started traveling more, I was like, oh, I can't discriminate the carbs, so it's whatever carb with peanut butter and jam.
No, so that's the like sense of home or the sense
Yeah.
of yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Hitting the critical conversations, critical questions.
Yep.
over here. I am super curious to understand from your perspective. So definitely shifting gears here from on field to off.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout your career, there has definitely been some things you've had to fight for you and your team, particularly around pay. And I'd really love your perspective on that scenario. There was a fight for equal pay. Could you share a bit about that time with us?
Yeah, it was a time. So after the 2015 World Cup, which was the best at that time of either men or a women's team to achieve, we were finished with our CBA, collective bargaining agreement. And leading up to the World Cup, we were wanting just better opportunities. Like we're basically in camp for 6 months straight, with no opportunity to study, no opportunity to work, and we're getting paid 25K. So, to be full time and to only earn that much, was, for us, like, a lot of us were about to go overseas, soon to play in America, which was the best league, or going to Sweden or Germany, and when they're paying, they're paying you a salary. You're like, wow, this is amazing as a female athlete. And we're like, why is every other country getting something? And so we got word after the World Cup that there's been no progression at all. And then we got offered an opportunity to go play the US, who just, had won. And they already sold out stadiums. And we said, well, what about insurance? What if someone gets hurt? We haven't thought about that. Oh, well, we'll pay all of you like 10 grand each. And we're like, okay, well, what about flights over? Do we have another physio coming? Are we playing on turf? What's, all these other conditions, and there's just no like guarantee on like what was happening next. And we were like, if in order for us to like get what we need or want or what we believe in as this team, because it was the era of like, the Sams, the Stephs, the Alanas, Emily's, Caitlin's, and the Lydias.
I was about to say that one. Yeah.
And we were like, holy crap, like we're freaking good. Like we have a young team, but like we all just believed in each other. We're like, you're sick. Like you're sick. Like, and so we kind of just had this like real belief that like this team can do something special. And we needed to kind of get that around to everybody, that like this team is like, we're on the like brink of doing something really cool with this group. And so it just ended up being a collective agreement that like we can't go to the US. We don't have any guarantee of what happens next. Like zero. And if we agree to this, what else are they going to make us do before we see any progression? So ended up being like a long talk with everybody, phone calls galore, conversations with our players union, just finding out what the right thing to do. And it ended up just being like, we need to have a strike. And we weren't obligated because we weren't on contract. So we ended up having a strike. Within 3 months, it got resolved with better pay conditions, but it was 3 months of you're not getting paid. Like, I think some girls had to go on the dole. Everyone was still working out and training. Half the girls were overseas in professional clubs. So it was a really interesting time where everyone was a collective, but also just like going through like what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
So yeah, it ended up being obviously a collective agreement. Not everyone agreed, but most people knew that it was the right thing to do.
Wow. Now, particularly in the case of women's sport, there are lots of people probably listening to this that are fighting for one thing or another to have better conditions, or whether it be pay. There are a variety of things that we're looking to improve in the context of women's sport. From your experience through that, what would be some of the things that you would encourage people to know or to learn or to expect in their journey to sort of have a better result?
Yeah, obviously there's going to be resistance, 100%, because normally better something requires more resources, whatever that might be. But I always have looked at it, if like in the grand scheme of things, is it the right thing to do? So if it's the right thing to do, it should not feel like it's a burden. Like, it's going to feel heavy because there'll be resistance, because there'll be maybe criticism, because there's going to be backlash, but is it the right thing to do? And it was always, in that moment for us, it was, does the future look like? It was never in that moment. Like, we hadn't achieved anything in that moment. We just believed in each other, believed in what the team could achieve. No matter, how long that might take, it was just the right thing to do. And I think as long as that's always in the forefront and the background of like whatever is going through, it's like to reiterate that to each other, but reiterate that to, whatever the, organization might be, of like, this is the right thing to do in this moment.
Yeah, I'm kind of hearing it from both sides, where there's a deep sense of belief and connection with the girls. So to have that support network, I guess, to be able to go into battle together. And then also the vision of, this is the right thing. This is what we want for the future. So remain connected to that as well. That's going to sort of support us through this journey, because it asks everything of you when you're battling something like that, emotionally, mentally. That takes a real toll. So to stick it out and get a result is an incredible thing.
Yeah, and solidarity. Like, you have to have everyone, a majority of people like on board, ready to like you reiterate the same message. Like, you have to say the same message. That's the one thing about it.
Yeah, that's a great message for our listeners to take into their next battle, whatever that may be. Now, for people who may not have followed the Matildas and have now, everyone in this country knows the Matildas, of course. You've talked about this journey of not always getting as far as you think you could get, or that the team hasn't always been as successful as they've come to be. I think from an outsider's perspective, or people that are disconnected from the sport, it's almost as if this explosion of Matildas just happened. And what you've spoken about today, and what I've learned through following, is there's been such a big build over a really long period of time. So we'll get to the explosion in a second, but there are so many women along the way that have made that sure that we are in this position now, that don't always get the recognition. Is there anyone that you think about that's been so integral on that Matildas journey?
I guess, yeah, obviously, like, I've had great mentors and people to look up to, but I never went into Matildas knowing who they were. It's a difference now that people know who different people are in the Matildas. But being in there, I guess, like, obviously the one captain that took me under their wing was Cheryl Salisbury, and just kind of the way that she led, even at the very end. I remember her getting ready to go out for games, and she would be riding a bike, not doing the team warm up because she just couldn't, but go out in a game and kill it. And just kind of the strength that, these, I guess you say veterans would have over what they put their bodies through without the medical or the financial support that they needed. Like, they just sacrificed so much to be a Matilda. I remember, like, Di Allegich, the way that she would, like, run and run in games. Like, there was so many of them that just gave everything for not much. And, that, like, came back to me, like, the humility of what it was to be a Matilda. Like, it was about representing the sport that you love, your country, and also like your family that has made all the sacrifices to get you there. And I think that that's the one thing that probably is true throughout all the generations of people that have gone and to be a Matilda is that everyone recognizes their family because like it's hard to be a footballer in Australia to make it to the top. So your family gets put through a lot because, you know, you're traveling, you know, just over Melbourne to get from, you know, like Mornington up to Essendon. You're going to be traveling on the weekend for at least like 3 hours, like for your kid to play. So, you know, for me, we went from Kalgoorlie to Canberra and then from there traveling around. So it is a hard slog to be a footballer.
Yeah, I wonder from their perspective when they get to see you on our shores in the World Cup on a stage where everyone is supporting you, the whole country's watching. That must have been an unbelievable moment.
Yeah, pretty surreal, really. Like it's like I can only explain it by when I first started, I would hear my mum in the stands like gasping every time a ball came down the final third or the back third, and I'm like, you need to stop. Like, like you're doing too much now.
Be cool, mum.
Yeah, and you're freaking me out. And where now it's like you can't even hear the person next to you. So it's almost like more calming in a way that with the crowd that has kind of generated and, you know, the noise that happens is a little bit comforting. But yeah, it's pretty crazy just realizing that we're playing in front of like maybe 1,000 people to now, you know, sell out stadiums.
Yeah, and the aspiration to inspire the nation. Well, didn't you do that?
Yeah, that was pretty wild. That was wild.
Take us through your I guess your perspective on that World Cup.
Well, it was a hard training camp. We were together for 3 weeks before the tournament started, and it was tough. Like it was brutal. It was great, but yeah, it was brutal. It was.
Can you give us an example?
So most days were double days. Definitely like a strength day every third day. Mixed in with like a really hard on-field session in the morning. Then you go do strength and recovery. They'll take you to like just around lunch, post-lunch, depending how long the field session took, and then you do gym. And then the next day would always be a tactical day in the morning, really long, like all about gameplay, all about shape, all about opponents. Then back to the gym, and it would be like top-ups. So are you going to go to the pool and do pool running? Are you going to go on the bike, do extra cardio? Are you already like, did you hit your numbers already? So now you can like have the afternoon off. Depending, everyone was managed individually on numbers and fatigue and kind of their level of fitness. And then the next day would be either another tactical, depending on like what needed to happen, either like a short tactical day, just fun, just getting your legs ticking over. Or it might be off because we're going to do like meetings and, you know, stuff that's like off pitch. So, and then you'd repeat that. So those 3 days for 3 weeks. But we would get a day and a half off on a weekend. So you could go either see family, you could travel somewhere. I think me and Mary went to Byron for a day and a half. Just something different, something
change
new.
of environment, totally.
Yeah. So like you got the opportunity to kind of do those things as well, to just debrief and get your brain ticking over, because we've been in situations before where by the time the tournament comes around, you've been together for however long, you haven't had that like break where it's been like, have fun, like
Just switch off for a second.
just switch off,
Yeah.
like do something that you would have done if like you had a break. So yeah, they were very observant and, you know, wary of like having that opportunity. But when the tournament came, it was like, no more breaks. Like we had a gym in our like area. you could do all this stuff there. We had like an off-site gym. We had this. We had a recovery center. We had an off-site recovery. We had everything that you could possibly want leading into the tournament. So when we first started, obviously the first game was in Sydney, and we kind of just all got together as a group without coaches, without any staff, and just was like, we realized the significance of this, but we need to take this like game by game. Like, we can't think of, I know we talk about it, I know we like, it's a visualization that everyone's putting out there, like lifting the trophy or whatever it is, but like it is a game by game. And everyone understood that. I think everyone was, again, everyone was very humble, because the gravity of the situation, but also just to not feel cocky, because it just doesn't fly with Australians, really, and doesn't really fly in a team situations. And obviously that was, you know, when we found out about Sam as well, or everyone found out about Sam.
Yeah.
So then it was, you know, making sure that we actually came together and, you know, really understood, like, everyone has a position in the team and an importance in the team, no matter what happens, no matter what the plan was, or, you know, whatever was going on, everyone needs to bring it back and understand, like, we are in this all together. Everyone is significant in this journey.
Wow. So everyone know your role. We need you to perform your role. Your role here is really important just to keep people present and grounded through what was a huge groundswell in this country.
Yeah, it was. And it was like, most of us have been playing in really high pressure, you know, competitions and moments in our careers. So it wasn't really something that was like completely new. But obviously you wanted anyone that was new, you wanted to make sure that they were really comforted in that situation and open and nurtured and understood that everyone's going to play a significant part. Like, not one person is not going to be like not taken for granted.
Yeah, we're all part of this system.
Yeah.
Are there any standout memorable moments that you've really taken away from that particular tournament?
Like, I think for me, I think just because I like love the team and the girls so much, is like everyone's own individual moments. You know, obviously Steph taking the captaincy and you know, penalty goal against Ireland, but also for me it was like just the way she took the penalty in Melbourne. Like, Melbourne's her home, and just seeing the crowd and her excitement on that, like, you could tell, like, you know, there's someone that's really pumped, she believes, everyone's behind her. You want your captain of that tournament to feel just like, I'm going to do everything that if you're tired, you can't do. You know, Emily stepping up and scoring against Nigeria, like, you know, that's someone that people didn't think was going to play, or especially as a, you know, false nine. And just like, you know, just kind of that, everyone's stepped up in different moments. Alana getting up for the goal in Nigeria, Maka performing, Sam coming on, scoring against England, you know, Ras was getting multiple goals, Viney stepping up for the penalty kick, everyone that was supporting, you know, on the sideline that never got to see the pitch, but everyone was so important to those players that did like their preparation. Everyone who took penalties, like, we've been practicing penalties since the 2011, what was 2020 Olympics, ended up being 2011. 2021, I mean, we practiced penalties for so many years, and we practiced with 2 goalkeepers in goal. So, like, if you can beat 2 goalkeepers in goal, you're going to score.
Nice.
And we did that for so long. So it was, everyone was so confident, and that was, you know, everyone like doing extras with Mary, and like my shoulder regretted it at the time, but
The toll of a goalkeeper.
yeah, but you know, like everyone stepped up in those moments that maybe wasn't shown on, you know, the public forum, but what we did behind the scenes, everyone was so significant to the whole campaign. You know, whether it would be, you know, making sure that, you know, they had family around to support them if they were feeling low, to not, again, like the energy was always a high and always like a belief that, no one was bringing it down or making it feel negatively or anything else. So every single person like did their role. And that was probably the most significant part for me, is like it was just so believable and such a team effort. And then like obviously individually for me it would have been like the last game. We didn't win, we're playing against Sweden. It was like let's leave something so we actually have a medal. It didn't happen, but it was just, me taking that time to sit by myself, to recognize the whole journey of the Matildas. It was the last time I was ever going to step foot on a World Cup pitch as a player. But just seeing like so many people just like fall in love with the team, so many people just like, we'd get updates a little bit of what was happening on the outside, but it was quite shielded from us. So now actually starting to see like, watching people stick around, watching people wear jerseys, watching people kind of have signs and shout your name and, cry and ride the wave and scream. Like the sound that the stadium made when Sam scored is the loudest sound I think I've ever heard. And I've been around a couple of the English girls who've said the exact same thing. They're like, it was unfreaking believable. It's like the loudest crowd noise like ever. So just like those moments, and then sitting and thinking about it all, that was like my highlight, because I could actually think about it. The one time I let like emotion take over me, the one time that I could like not worry about what was next, in terms of like, my performance, I guess, and trying to, make sure that I was healthy enough to be number one again or whatever it was. Like I was just done. Like I was like, yeah, my body's done. I'm not gonna fight anymore. I've done it about 4 times to regain the number one spot, and I was just like, yeah, no, it's a hard slog that I'm not gonna do.
Don't have to worry about that. Was there
No.
a sense of relief? I imagine your whole body must have just been like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry too much about those things now. I can just stop and enjoy and reflect.
Well, I had a conversation leading into the World Cup with our coach and goalkeeper coach, and just kind of what was, I guess, what they were thinking, what my role would be, what do they want from me. And it was, let's look at you as, the third choice. You're going to be there supporting the other two, but like we need you. And it was very clear, like, we need you there. And so for me, it was like, I still have a place. You still have a place if you're experienced or a veteran. Like, you are still significant. And that was my role, was to make sure that I've been to 4 World Cups previously. And, it was, Mackenzie's first major one, Tegan's first one. So it was really, important for me to make sure that, like, as a goalkeeping unit, and Jada being there as well, and the lead up, to make sure that everyone understood our roles and we were there supporting each other, and like we were gonna do anything in this tournament is because the goalkeepers were strong.
What that is just now an iconic moment in Australian history. That is so huge. I'm so glad you brought us into the meaty moments of what that feels like for you, because it's so relatable to the everyday girl in sport who goes, I just love it when my teammates are doing cool things. Like, I remember that she did that and she did that, and there's so much fulfillment in the girls just played their role. That's why we did so well.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what it is. Like, I love what I've done, but like, I love what everyone else has done, and they don't get to brag about it yet.
Yeah.
So I want to brag about them, because, I think they inspire me to be better and to do the best that I can.
Yeah, we get to sing their names, shout their name from the rooftops. Now, in your send-off, so we were at that game. It seemed, from a viewing perspective, it just seemed like the perfect send-off. Even your embrace with Mackenzie and the staff that hugged you, it was just a real moment in time. It seemed like a beautiful way to sort of wrap things up. How was it for you?
Yeah, so leading into that game, it was the year before we played in Canada, and it was Christine Sinclair's send-off. And I remember one of the girls, I would say Steph, who I've known forever. We've, gone through so much, and one of my closest friends came up to me previously and has asked, like, I don't want to force anything, but like, have you ever thought about like retirement? Like, just coming from, we want to celebrate you, we want to celebrate with you, want to make sure that it's something great. And then with Sink's last game, seeing how she was celebrated, it kind of brought it back up again. So I had a conversation, actually understood what it meant. And I guess it took me a while until I had a conversation with someone else who was like, we want to make sure that you feel special. And so I was like, okay, I actually need to think about this. And then Sink's game came, and then I actually spoke to Tony and just kind of asked him, explained to him what I was thinking. And then he was like, oh yeah, let's look at dates. Let's actually like map this out, because I agree. Like, he came from the US setup where they honor their players, and send them off, and anyone significant, they make it like a big thing for them. So he's obviously well aware of like what this means, and Australia had never done it before, or in a really long time. So ended up being, me accepting it, me coming to facts that it was like not sad, it was actually really exciting. And it was something that was like, weight off my shoulders. Like, this is
cool.
This
This
is
is a
cool.
good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can enjoy this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, then it was a couple months later, all planned out. Basically June, I think it was. Was the scheduled time against China. And I got told, hey, so we have a special thing for you. Like, what you're going to do is go out. You're going to have what do they call it? The send-off wall, whatever it is.
Oh, the guard of honor.
Guard of honor, thank
Yeah.
you. There's a guard of honor with your family and friends. Who do you want to come over? And I was like, I'll invite these friends who actually don't know if I'm ever in the country, and they also don't care that I play for the Matildas. But they've always been
You're
so
just Lids.
supportive.
Yeah.
And my school friends, they just like, where are you? I'm like, oh, I'm over here. And they're like, oh, cool. When are you back? Like, they literally don't care. Well, they do, but like, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, they're not like asking what were your stats or like how to
we
go.
still talk about school things. Like, it's just anyway. So definitely them, my family, and then I was like, the girls, duh. Like, let's, And then they're like, okay, well then you're gonna have a special surprise, a gift. And I was like, what do you mean a gift? And they're like, if you want to say something, you can. I'm like, what do you mean say something?
Too much. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I had to think about. And then during like the warm up and getting ready, everyone was like, make sure that you like take a moment, stop being a goalkeeper, stop being a Matilda. Like, this is for you. And then like walking in and seeing like what, the staff and everyone did, like everyone had a, a jersey that said, thank you, Lids. Everyone like, everyone wanted a photo. There was like a little special setup in my locker. Like, it was just like, even that was just overwhelming. I'm like, oh, it was such good vibes. Like, it was like, we're just going out to play a game. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, we're just gonna like, you're gonna leave just before halftime. And it was similar to the All-Star game that I played earlier against Arsenal. And that was a conversation with Joe. And Joe was like, how do you want to do it? Like, let's make this really exciting. Obviously, I want to play everyone. Everyone deserves to play if they're in the All-Star team. And I was like, I just want to get subbed before halftime. Like, I'm old now. But I'm also like, like it's a good time because there's no other time. And so that happened and that went well. And so it was like, we're going to do the same thing. So I already had that in my knowledge. So walking out and then seeing my family and friends was like overwhelming. I was like, oh my God. And then all the girls and like, wow. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. And then standing there and there was like a microphone. I'm like, oh God. And then out of the crowd, Yvonne emerges and I'm like, oh my God, like what is happening right now? And then putting on the booker and then like embracing me and just kind of speaking into my ear of just, how proud like First Nations people are, how proud she is. Like, this is really significant. And like, I remember like looking back at photos, I can see everyone going, that's Yvonne. Oh my God. Like, that's, um, yeah. And then obviously having to speak, I was like, holy crap. And then it was the video, and everyone came over to me from the team, and I was just like, oh, this is too much. Like,
There's a lot going
this is
on.
too much for me. And then, the game starts, and, there goes all the emotion. We're in game mode
Game
now.
face
Yeah.
on.
And then, halftime, just prior to halftime, Macca's there. And then just like, Macca's been through so much. Like, it's from 2015, I think, 2014. Like, we've been teammates battling out for the number one spot, battling out for really hard times, supporting each other. So to kind of have that embrace and experience of being like, mate, it's your turn now. Like, I'm done. Like, good luck. This is all you. Be prepared for everything that comes your way. Like, it's positive, negative. Like, you are the goalkeeper now. So, that was kind of like just nice to like, I've always wanted it to go to like the next, like, be in hands that are gonna then do it proud and then pass it on again, and not, tarnish the number one jersey, or not be, like, make it their own, but has a history behind it. So yeah, then that was obviously really lovely, and then, embracing everyone on the sideline, and the goalkeeper coach who told me at the very beginning that you should be coachable and you have the most potential to go the furthest was my goalkeeper coach at the end.
Wow.
And so, like, he was standing back. If you look at the footage, like, everyone's kind of there. He was standing back, and I was like, it was just really nice, because I'm like, he was the kind of person that just gave me the belief as a coach, not necessarily as, my mum getting told, or a head coach saying something. He was like he ended up coaching the Socceroos for a really long time. And Schwarzer, who was my, Australian football idol. So, like, I was like, this is significant, like, him saying this, and then, like, now he's my coach. Like, what?
What a full circle moment. That
Yeah.
man must be so proud.
Yeah, so I was like, and then obviously all the girls and celebrating at the end, like, we got to go back to the hotel and everyone was around, and, we celebrated and had speeches, and, officially passed on the jersey, and Ellie's leading the team song now. So, yeah, it was all really lovely. And I think, the best thing out of it is that I still regularly keep in touch with everyone, because, we're friends. We're not just teammates.
What an epic send-off. It sounds like such a celebration, and in no way, the way that retirement could feel. You set it up really beautifully, and then it got to be this awesome celebration.
Yeah,
Good.
It was always just like the acceptance of it. And I think I got to a point where I was like so content and so happy with what I'd done that, like, you don't remember maybe things that you achieved. Like, you hear about, maybe Olympians or athletes of old that have won something, like their trophy sitting in like a dust cupboard. That's how you make people feel. And that's, I don't have anything like tangible to be like, oh, we World Cup or Olympic, whatever it is. But I'm happy with like how the relationships that I've made, and how I've made people feel in that moment.
Incredible. Well, congratulations on an absolutely outstanding career. I feel like there's not enough words to say what an absolute legacy you've built and now continue to build. Now, there's a new season of life happening for you at the moment, with a recent announcement that there's a bubba on the way.
Yes.
How are you going so far? How's it feeling?
Oh, I mean, my second trimester is way better than the first trimester, so I'm happy. I've finally got my energy back, my appetite. But yeah, it's been exciting. It was probably one of the other things, leading into retirement, that I had to start thinking about, like, my health after football. I had surgery on my wrist last year, which needed a fusion, so I'm technically, done. But yeah, like, I just wanted to make sure, preserve my body as best as it could, because I have another, 30 something years to kind of still be active and doing stuff. So yeah, when it was coming to that time, it was like, okay, maybe start thinking about like what a child looks like and what, the next phase of your life. So, I've been lucky to be able to have the opportunity to do that. And yeah, a little one on the way.
That is very exciting. Baby Williams due in
January
2026. What an exciting time ahead.
Yep.
Well, we could obviously sit here and talk for a really long time, but thank you so much for sharing your story. We are absolutely better for hearing it. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.